Okay, welcome everybody. Today is the 16th of January. We're in the Arctic town of Dallas. Many of us, some are in balmy Arizona and some climbs north. But anyhow, this is the regular Tuesday night session of Dallas Robotics Group Builders Night Out, virtual online. We'll do the usual, go around the table and share our projects and questions and status and such, mostly robot related. We have a queue started already, which includes Doug, D, then Mike, myself, Paul, Ray, and then open mic. So Doug, D, what you got?
Well, if you pin me, you'll see a bigger view of RoboDog is finally back to operational again.
All right.
Yay! So it's back to where it was last October. I finally got the motor controllers working, and sorry for all that movement, but I fixed it with the laptop. And now I need to get it back to driving straight by hooking up the encoders. But at least I finally got the motor controllers, one for the front, one for the back, and it's all wired up and it's finally working again, so I can get back to making progress.
All right.
That's my full update. I'm going to pass on the one to the next person.
Gold star. Gold star for Doug.
Oh, look at that.
And by the way, the bane of the RoboDog was taking it out into the street for a practice run. The last two times I did that is when it crashed, smoked and burned. At this time, it did not smoke and burn, so I think it's going to work.
Way to go.
All right.
So your motor controllers are able to handle the current now?
Right.
Keeping the magic blue smoke inside of the parts.
That's right.
Excellent. Way to go. All right. So that leads us on to Mike.
All right. Yeah. So last week I was trying to demo my robot running with ROS 2 and with a hacked together automation. And I've been pretty busy doing other stuff this week, but I was able to get an automated thing now that should work. Let's see. Okay, so you can see it over there on the ground. Here's my remote. And what I did was I just did a 4 waypoints. So it's going to go 1 meter, then stop. I have it going really slow because it's not tuned very well, and it gyrates a lot if I go too fast. And I also expect that if I start using the navigation stack, well, I'm crossing my fingers and hoping it would work better. But this is just my own hacked together waypoint follower.
It's operating autonomously here, right, Mike?
Yeah, I'm just holding the button here.
Hey!
2 gold stars in a row. That's pretty amazing. Look at Paul.
Yeah, so I've been. I still don't quite understand the things called transforms in ROS. I don't understand the particularities of the data that they have and how one relates to another. But I was able to hack it together and get that to work. So that's all I have for now.
That's it. So maybe it needs to be cooled.
I don't know if this is an appropriate point to make a comment on transforms in ROS, but if you look at Rep 105, it defines the transforms, and the key point about it is that it's a tree, and if you think about the tree structure, the root of it is back in some world frame. The principal robot point of reference is called base link, which is generally where the robot, the point about which the robot turns. And then you've got various other tree or branches on the tree that can go to arms. You can have one might go to a GPS sensor. So that lets you work back from the ask the system RTF where the base link is if you know where the GPS sensor is. So the frame, the world frame for indoor robots is conventionally ODOM, called /ODOM, or it's the odometry frame. There is a map frame that's used for outdoor robots that's further back, but ODOM is the point with which, relative to where the robot's base link is reported. So I'm not sure if that helps any.
Yeah, so I got all the real basic stuff about transforms, but when I'm trying to say, okay, I'm over here and I'm pointing and I'm trying to get the coordinates and the angle to this other one, sometimes I just don't understand what numbers it's giving me. It's just not what I expected. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean the RViz screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can. So when I'm running this, you can see it's running from waypoint to waypoint. So I got all the transforms working and all the like the static ones and the dynamic ones and stuff to get this working. It's just some of the math of using the data. I just don't have it down pat perfectly. So, oh well. but I got the trees built and I can do the transforms, create them. I can say I could give me the current transform offset between point A and point B, but the angle number just confounds me about exactly what that is. It seems to be related to pointing.
It's expressed in a quaternion, right?
Well, I converted to Euler, but yeah.
Sorry? You convert it to Euler.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm still trying to understand that by hacking on it, and then once you go into the nav stack, then it's supposed to take care of it all. So, but I just want to understand it somewhat, just in case there's a problem. Then I can probably debug the nav stack better. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, cool. So a second gold star and a hint at quaternions for us. All right. So we're flying through. Next in queue, it's me, then Paul, then Ray, then open mic. So I am going to share. We'll let Harold into the show here. Welcome back, Harold. So I'm going to share a little exercise I did today just for grins. And this was a Chat GPT exercise. And I've been thinking for a long time, or we've all talked and wondered about the subsumption architecture, which David Anderson so aptly demonstrated. And then somebody not too far in the back past mentioned also behavior trees, which struck me as somehow a little bit similar. So what I did was I basically spent a little while with ChatGPT to try and compare and contrast them. So I put a link in the chat there, kind of summarizing what I did, and you can actually click that link. You should be able to see the full discussion transcript. But the bottom line was, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to look at like a Arduino robot style pseudocode kind of framework in both styles and see what would happen if I asked ChatGPT to generate that. So, and I also wanted to explore, because this is a paid level of GPT, and it has access to these different helpers, and there's all kinds of different GPT plugins are available. Watch me really slow things down now, but there's just tons and tons of public GPTs. I know nothing about how they're created or why you might care, but I figured, well, C++ has got to start somewhere. Why not try that? So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll leave that for anybody that wants to read through it. But I basically said, please build the behavior tree framework suitable for an autonomous robot. It should include behaviors where, into my way of thinking, built-in test and environmental sensors are the highest priority, and then maybe goal-seeking behaviors are at the lower level. So it said, sure, gotcha, here you go. And it was a straight kind of C++ thing, and I said, whiz bang, thank you, but can you make it so that it's compatible with common Arduino libraries and compilers? And they said, well, to update it, you might want to address these kinds of things: lower memory, simplify data structures, Arduino-specific functions. And it came along and made something a little more familiar to me, because I'm not a C guy, really. And it used some constructs that I don't know that well, so it, I think, would be a good thing to experiment with and learn how it works. But a nice framework to start with. And I see elements in this, by the way, of when I remember reading through David Anderson's LMK, or his subsumption architecture code base. So it described the things, and I said, hey, by the way, that was a behavior tree. So are you familiar with subsumption architectures? If so, can you rewrite that in the style of a subsumption architecture that could compile for Arduino? He said, sure, I know about that. Rodney Brooks, blah, 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 blah. And it gave a little summary of what subsumption architecture are about. And it gave a kind of to my way of thinking, more generic thing. But it rewrote that in the style of a subsumption architecture, and it gave some comments, kind of helpful. And I said, well, I'm confused about how you mapped the behavior tree example to subsumption architecture. And I said, the behavior tree, we gave highest level of priority to this, but I couldn't find those as clearly as mapping into this subsumption architecture. So I said, can you adjust your examples to better show a direct mapping from the behavior tree example to the subsumption? It said, sure. So it gave some nice text up and ahead to describe the overall concept, and then it gave the kind of mapping from layers to behaviors. And then here's the updated subsumption architecture way of thinking. And more summary after all. I said, great, thanks. And I said, you give the impression that for the subsumption, abstracts go to the top, and an evaluation, is that the right way to think about it? And how do I think about behavior tree? Is it common to put abstract at the top or at the bottom, or what? So it said, yes, you got it. This is how the two design patterns compare, typically. So it gave a nice little subsumption architecture summary and a behavior tree summary. And then it compared them. And I said, okay, great. So in my mind, there are some things which should always run regardless of the architecture, like environment sensors, built-in test. And those things typically want to run at a fixed rate for predictable results in real-time things like physical robots. So let's compare that to your explanation. And I said, how does that regular periodic fixed time stuff fit in? And they said, yes, periodic is good for real time. Let's delve into how it can be integrated to both. So it explained for both. And then it gave an example for behavior tree. And it goes on and on and on. it brought out some really nice topics, right? Concurrency, some big thinking topics that look spot on. I said, okay, great. So considering all of that, can you update the behavior tree example to show a differential wheeled robot that measures the following periodically: battery voltage, motor current, obstacle sensors, odometry, and it enters a kind of a safe state as a function of battery and motor current, and when not in a safe state, performs obstacle avoidance, basically as a function of obstacle sensors, and when not obstacle avoiding, then performs a goal-seeking behavior to visit 3 or more waypoints based on odometry. So it said, you got it. Right, Captain. Okay, so it gave a summary of the overall design behavior pattern and the structure. And then there's some Arduino friendly pseudocode. It defined a nice structure for the robot state. The node, composite node, selectors, blah, blah, blah. There's the serial begin, make the setup, and then all the other stuff that runs in the behavior tree. And then it gave a nice little summary, key points, how to interpret what you just saw. So, and I said, great, let's call that example behavior tree implementation 1 now. Can you do a subsumption architecture framework called this that does the same robot goals that one you just gave me? I said, for sure. So let's create the subsumption, and there it is. There's the layer structure, reactive, safe, obstacle, goal seeking, and then here's some code. So basically, I was really pleased because I've heard about both of these concepts, but doing a little exercise like this, I feel made it easier to take the abstract and put it in terms that I can think about, that I can relate to.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading in the Ross doc stuff online, and one of the big tools they have is a tree, a behavioral tree, which is what you're expected to use to do something complex like play 6-can.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going, I do a waypoint follower. That's not behavioral tree. That's just following some waypoints without a map or anything. But then I would do a behavioral tree to do the 6-can.
Yeah.
And it'd be an incremental improvement over what I'm doing. So I'm hoping to get on a roll and be able to get there by March.
A slightly different twist on this is that you can actually run non-GPT engines on your own computer.
Yeah.
And people have put them on Pis.
Oh.
So I'm kind of I've been downloading isolated AIs with the idea of maybe using that as part of the navigation environmental awareness. I'm a long ways from there, but I've been looking at some of those kind of slow response. Those what you have access online are just supercomputers almost that they can respond. Do it on your own computer. It's doable, but it's slow. But that's a twist on what you did, which is I think AI is going to be very interesting here in the next few years if they don't shut it down. Make it illegal to use.
Yeah, that's hard to imagine because there's so many different levels to take it on.
Yeah.
I was wondering how to use that AI for the 6-can behavioral tree. Yeah.
Well, like any tool, it could be abused, or it could be, they're already making breakthroughs because of how it can collate so much information so quickly. But it could be abused.
That's pretty amazing, Carl. Have you had a chance to delve into it to see if what it actually produced looked like it made sense?
I did spend enough time to look at it, and it made complete sense to me. And I also tried to map what it described in words, what I saw in code, also to the presentations I remember from David Anderson and digging into his code. And I think it really does make sense. I think it, surely everything has errors in it, but as an overall framework and approach, right, as a starting point to get a jump start on some language constructs, like classes and pointers that I'm not so familiar with, and how to actually use them in something I might care about to implement, even on something as simple as a obstacle avoiding waypoint follower. Let's face it, I still haven't made a robot that's an obstacle avoiding waypoint follower, so maybe this is my jump start to do that.
Wow.
Mentioning that you have a paid version, what are you using?
Yeah, this is the $20 a month Chat GPT, OpenAI. So it gives you access to all of the goodies that OpenAI have. So I think it does. So I can do well, not all the goodies for an individual because they have team plans apparently. But I can start chats that are focused on text like this or code, or I guess any of the plugins. And I think I can also do like Dolly for images, and I think there's some other stuff too. And what's really cool, one of the things I like about the paid version is that I can log into the app on my phone, and like this one actually started. I had some time waiting in line somewhere, so I actually started that chat on my phone. And then it sat for a day and it remembered the history, so I picked the chat up again this afternoon just for kicks. And with the paid version, it remembers history all the way back to, well, I think when I started asking it about help me find a good floor jack to work on my vintage car with, which was, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago.
You can also integrate it into Google Docs in their Excel spreadsheets. That's what I've done. It's a paid, very inexpensive. At least the Google route is, and you can build a document as you go. That's why I'd give it prompts and it would respond. It was all just embedded into the document as you go. So it's another way. I found that a little cheaper than some of the other options. You say you pay $20 a month. Is that what you do?
Yeah, $20 a month for the standalone OpenAI.com one.
Yeah.
But are you using the some OpenAI plugin to Google Docs, or are you using the Google thing?
Yeah, it's an extension, and and you have a choice of a couple different. GPT-3 is the last one I use. I think 4 is either coming online. But I usually go in spurts. I didn't want to pay something monthly because I just don't use it that much.
Yeah.
But when I use it, I'll use it pretty heavily for a few days, and it costs me 10 cents.
Oh wow!
It charges you per token, so they use, and but it's not. It's just text at this point, numbers and text. It doesn't have the pictures yet.
Yeah. Well, Google has one that I saw at the Google Suite at CES where they want $30 a month per user, so that you can have that built into Google Docs and the Google Sheets. But all the Google Sheets could do is like make tables and lists, and it was
I'll probably help you do some of the programming like Excel. I'm assuming I've just played with the doc side. No,
not yet. No, they want $30 and it can't help with the programming yet.
I sure hope they don't get rid of this other option because it's just dirt cheap and it's I like it. But if they have a competing package, I wouldn't be surprised if they disallow this extension. Because you have to make an account with the back end of the GPT OpenAI. It's an OpenAI account. Yeah. And it's got an API that you communicate through, and that's what the extension does for you. But it's really cheap, especially if you don't use it daily. It's just periodic. I find it very attractive that way.
What's the name of the extension you're using, Brendan?
Okay, since I brought it up, let me start it up here, and here's my scratch pad. I have a dedicated scratch pad extension. Oh. It's been about a week since I used it. Oh, there we go. It's called GPT for Sheets and Doc.
Can you put a link in?
Maybe. It's just a drop down from the sheets. There's nothing I can grab.
GPT for Sheets and Docs. It's got to be in the store somewhere.
Wow.
Let me see if I go to the store and grab get add-ons.
I found it in the marketplace. I'll put a link in.
Okay.
Yeah,
But you do have to set up an account, but it's pretty straightforward, and then you pay per token. And I was amazed what you could get, and like I said, I could play with it all day. It's 10 cents. But there's no graphics. It's just words.
I tried to do motor schemas in Chat GPT at 3.5 and it failed miserably. So.
Oh, it will confidently tell you wrong stuff, so you do have to be careful. I think the more technical it is, better, but I've talked to done other things that there may be some variation on interpretation. It will confidently tell you a lie if you're not careful.
Yeah, the code would work. It's just not at all what I was trying to get to. So it's more, instead of a competitive, behavior mode like subsumption, motor schemas are cooperative, and so all the behaviors output a kind of a regularized vector, and the arbitration is done just by summing the vectors. It's kind of a vector field approach to behaviors instead of a competitive arbiter approach, and it doesn't appear to know a damn thing about it. So it's giving me vectors that will sum, but the behaviors don't actually calculate the vector at all. So, yeah.
But that's by the way.
This whole thing is very exciting. It can help you write code. It can help you probably detect objects. I think eventually, over time, it's going to get better, even on some of these But you have to be careful right now.
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear about the lawyer who created a case history by using GPT?
Yeah.
And it was fictitious?
He tried to argue it in court, and they found him out and disbarred him because it cited fictitious cases.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It will confidently tell you lies.
Yeah.
Early versions, you could click on it and ask it where it got the data, and it would tell you that it made that up. That there wasn't any.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, you can still do that. You can have that as part of your prompt and to annotate your references. I've seen somebody do that on video, which I had not done before, but when I saw that, I said, I like that idea. Just because,
Footnotes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen the Bing integration do that more than I haven't seen the native one do that.
Yeah, so I think this Google Docs would be more prone to be more aligned to allow you to do that. But like I said, I've seen somebody else do it. I've not done it myself.
I've been getting into more of this AI thing and the chat thing, and not that I wasn't into it before, but I've been studying about how it really works because everybody's afraid of the AI is going to take over the world, and just Chat GPT is not AI. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's not the AI that we think of being autonomous and walking around and C-3PO and R2-D2 fixing things and holding secrets of all that kind of stuff, right? What really is going on is, I'll give you a quick example that was given to me, and I'll give it to you. They're using tokens. They look at the words and the things you give, they tokenize it, and then it has over about 3,000 degrees of movement, if you will, to then figure out where to go to the next closest word. So if I were to say to any of you, hello, how are you? What are the next three words you would most likely to say back to me?
Yeah, awesome. How about you? Yeah.
Something about like that, right?
Yeah.
Is that AI? Or is that just a response versus off what I just asked you?
Oh, it's regurgitation.
Yeah.
It sure is good mimicry.
So that's really what's going on in what we're doing with ChatGPT. But the fact that it has a lot more data than you and I can possibly possess and figure out what the connections are, right? I mean, it's a very simplistic view. I'm saying that, but that's effectively what it's doing. It looks at what you just asked it. It puts it in the center of this three-dimensional kind of grid thing with all the data points all the way around it, and then starts going to the closest node and spitting and regurgitating what that is and ripping through that graph what it is. I'm not saying it's not sophisticated. I'm just saying what it's really doing is not all that sophisticated at the bottom base level stuff. But
Well, I
it's
thought that's the way that the brain neurons work.
well, then I'm not sure mine work at all with the neurons. You know, but very similar to that. I mean, but we have. But I think maybe I'm giving the human race credit. I think the human race and what we call intelligent is a little bit more sophisticated than what is the next neuron to say on the thing. I mean, because we can override that, right? How many times does somebody walk to you and go, "Hey, how are you? What are you doing?" You know, that's the response. Because you wanted to say, "What are you doing?" You didn't really care what the response came back in. You just threw it at them, right? So are you really, you overrode what that neuron graph thing was. And so I don't know, how do you override that? I don't really know. There's a lot more complicated thing going on there. But
Oh yeah, sure.
there's some way cool stuff though. I mean, what was it? We had a global AI thing with Ron Dagdag and back in December, and one of the coolest thing out of there that during that workshop they had us go to a tokenizer and type in a few words, and what I thought were going to be 3 words were, okay, I'm going to over exaggerate a little bit. I typed in like 3 words there of random words, and they came out with like 27 different tokens it was going to analyze and ramp through that 3,000 degrees of freedom thing to find the next words that would have come. It would use that as a starting point to find the other words and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, really? Out of 3 words? I mean, because A was a token versus the whole word being a token. They would divide things up and stuff. It's kind of weird. I thought it was kind of weird anyways.
One of the scientists, I forget his name now, it's the Oriental guy, the white-haired guy that you frequently see on TV. Anyhow, he said, I don't understand why everybody's so scared of this thing. It's just nothing but a tape recorder that's pasting words together.
Yeah, and it's effectively kind of what it is, but it's done in a very specific way and because it has access to information. Like, for instance, the model we were working on was trained in 2021, and we asked it how old Queen Elizabeth was. And Queen Elizabeth is this years old. Well, it didn't know that Queen Elizabeth died last year and a half ago or so, something like that. Just didn't know it, so it didn't know how to answer that question. Anyway. What's all that going on?
But it is pretty. I like the.
I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing the all that it works, all that it does. I truly do. I didn't want to bust on anybody's bubble there, but I had that conceptual thing when we talked about it. I'm like, really? That's all this is? Well, I say all this is. There's a lot of complex computational power going on there, but at the bottom line, that's really kind of what it is. It takes your words and figures out the next best words that are going to fit there. It's really clever on how it does that.
Yeah, it's always fun to pull the covers off and take the magic away by looking at what happens underneath. But I just find it really interesting like I read the thing today, someone was describing them as, imagine you have at your fingertips a white collar research assistant that can do research and reasoning and summaries for you and thinking. And no matter how it does it, it can be pretty useful that way.
It's starting, and all that stuff you were just talking about, Carl, with the subsumptive, the behavior trees and the other architecture there.
subsumption architecture. It's way cool that it was able to make all those connections and do all that stuff for you.
Oh yeah, with pretty straightforward. I mean, I like to think it was well spoken and decently phrased questions, but it was able to really go off on a pretty far tangent. I think with not that much of a prompt when you when you think about
No,
it.
not at all.
Yeah,
Just being able to find stuff on the web that
yeah,
you can think of is useful in its own right, even if it's not actually smart or intelligent.
yeah. Just to digest a lot of crap and cut through the most common things that seem to make sense.
Yeah.
It's very handy.
There's a guy, Hendrik Parthy, who was one of the original scientists at OpenAI. He went to Tesla later, but he's back at OpenAI now, and he's got a little seminar he did on how to build. It's a toy Chat GPT because it doesn't use the training data that the real Chat GPT uses, but he builds it on that video I posted in chat from scratch, mostly in Python. If you want to see what it's actually doing, it's kind of complicated to say the least. It's using transformers, which is tough concept to get your head around. But he actually shows you what it's doing and trains one to do what Harold was talking about, to work with the word tokens and train it to actually be pretty smart. I think the example he uses is generating Shakespeare. So there's a text file that has all the works of Shakespeare in a single text file, and you train it on that. And then it generated gibberish, but it was kind of Shakespeare's sounding gibberish by the end of it. So you want to see how that actually worked, and you run it on a data set the size of the internet, and it might actually do a better job.
Cool. All right. Well, we've had some people join since the queue was formed. Next in queue, we have Paul, then Ray, and then open mic. So, Paul, you ready?
Yeah. So let me just bring up my notes. So I told Doug that I would take the baton and lead the organizing of Roborama, of Spring Roborama. And so I want to solicit this group's input on what we should do for Spring Roborama. So, when, which contests, any input on where, who thinks they'll be doing something on, competing robot. And Doug suggested, because he's organized, between Doug and Carl, you guys have been running the club and the last, organizing the last few competitions. And Doug indicated that the most popular contests would be out and back, which I think is called Quick Trip in the rules.
Yep.
Foursquare, which I think is called Four Corners in the rules, and Six Can. So let me first of all ask if anyone wants other contests or thinks that they would want us to put on other contests.
See, the ones I think I was designing to are Quick Trip, Four Corner, the 5-spot one, and 6 Can.
What was the third one?
It's called 5-spot in the in the rules.
Oh, okay.
And 6 can. I think, I don't know if can soccer, anybody is interested in that, but I'd be hard pressed to make any of those at this point. So can soccer might be a stretch.
Any other input on the selection of competitions? Because if there's only one, so I figured I'd also poll the list and see what input I get from that. But Brad, I've noted that you're designing to 5-spot as well as the other 3. So I guess for this meeting, it sounds like so for this meeting, who all do you think, which of you think you'd be potentially competing in one of those 3?
Hopefully.
Harold, Mike,
Which 3? Sorry.
Brad, Tom.
Pat Carone is also interested in at least 6-can. He's not here tonight, but
Okay.
Yeah, the assumption is that you'd accept remote entries as well.
Yes, as we have in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, so I
Just
got
Quick Strip, 4-square, 5-spot, or 5-corner, or 4 corners, 5-spot, and 6-can.
so the 3 primaries, based on Doug, and I'm hearing that. I think I'm hearing that would be out in Quick Trip, 4 corners, and 6-can, with maybe 5-spot, depending on if there's someone else besides Brad. So
Actually, Paul, I think if somebody is designing for it, we run that contest. You know what I mean? That way they get a chance to do it. Because like if somebody wanted to do the challenge line following contest, we would pull out the course for that one person. So if Brad is designing to a 5-spot, if he can let us know ahead of time, like if it's late April, and he's still struggling, he might want to cut back on it, But if he's still good on doing it, it's not a hard contest for us. That one is pretty easy. You basically visit, if I remember right, you visit the 4 corners of the room.
Yeah.
And the center of the room.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I mean, to be honest, I'm not even moving yet, so this is which I might be. So,
okay.
getting ahead of myself, but yeah.
Thanks for the guidance, Doug.
Well, I'm just saying, we want to encourage anybody. You look at the list, if you see something you like and you're wanting to try it, and you really, but we don't, we can get to the contest and just say, hey, well, if there's nobody running, then it doesn't run.
Yeah.
Now, if you run the contest as a single, then you don't get an automatic prize. You got to win. So, you can't just, you can't just say, well, I want to do line following, and then I put a brick on the line and say, hey.
Yes.
That doesn't work. So, but anyway.
No bricks then, huh?
No bricks.
Brick butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for spring, you don't do the Robo Columbus stuff, is that correct?
Generally, we don't.
Okay.
Because we're borrowing somebody. We could possibly run one in the summer or something if somebody wanted to, but usually getting one a year is pretty good for us.
Let me just follow up on that. If we did run one, who would be interested? Who would enter into it? Just
Well, Ray's the one that's probably got. Ray and Scott are the and yourself, and we had Raj. Now, Raj got kind of burned that last one, so he might be really interested in not waiting a whole year, but, I don't know. Ray's making a lot of long-term improvements, and I don't know what your plans are, Paul. Scott's probably tinkering away, because he still hasn't got his perfect score, which bugs him right now. So, I should mention that both Scott and David Anderson have multiple perfect scores, but not at the Edwards property. So that one has been sufficiently odd to make it kind of elusive.
Too much jungle, I think.
Yeah.
Sufficiently odd.
Well, it's fun. We still talk about your attack of the
Monkey balls.
monkey balls. So
Oh, yeah.
anyway, let's see.
I'm sufficiently odd. I need to build a robot just to try that course now.
Yeah.
So was there anyone else besides Harold, Mike, Brad, Tom, Pat, and Ray?
I would like to do some, but I can't guarantee it.
Yeah, you're probably not.
Probably not. So it's, if somebody told me go for May or go for November, I'm going to go for November.
Yeah, but six robots would be. That's awesome.
Paul, I would like to. I would like to see if we couldn't revisit the rules enough that. So there's a couple of kids I'm working with, a 7th and 8th grader. So probably for the next 6 months, instead of spending much time on my own robots, I'm probably going to put implementation time to help them. And so they're a really young first team. And I don't think that they'll have a time to build a normal DPRG size platform, but they have a first size platform, which is the 18 inches by 18 inches by whatever, big one.
Yeah.
And they haven't yet had a chance to exercise odometry. So I would love to make the rules such that we could stretch them and I could help them get odometry running on their robot, and they could just run their first robot in at least quick trip 4 corners, maybe 5 spot.
Yeah. Well, in the past, Carl, we've never, honestly, the rules there are reasonably flexible. Like in a 7x10 arena, we don't want probably an 18x8. Anything bigger, no, that's too big.
Right.
Especially since Scott got it all nice and cool. But for the ones you mentioned, I don't see any problem with an 18x18.
Yeah.
Even if I don't even think we have to change the rules. We just say you can run.
Yeah. I agree with that, Doug.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not going to be quite honest, the whole point of this is to promote people building robots.
Yeah.
So anybody who's making, and think of the rules as a little stronger than guidelines, but we're not going to, if you make a robot and you want to run it, we'll let you run it.
Cool.
Unless it does something stupid like you have a chainsaw on the front and it weighs 100 pounds. We don't want to do that. But anything reasonable. And we'd love to see people do some walkers and other
crawlers.
other types, crawlers and
types. Yep.
Yeah.
I still keep
Challenge accepted. I'm putting a chainsaw on a robot now.
Excellent.
You got to watch it though. Ted. They tend to go.
Yeah, it'll be a digger.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick a date. Again, I'll throw that out on the list and see if there are any major objections or anything. But it looks to me like the first. So I could suggest the first Saturday in May is the 4th. Should we do May, or should we do sometime in April? What do y'all think?
Okay, now traditionally it's the second week of May. I mean, that's traditional. You know, I'll just throw that out there.
So that would be the 11th.
Right.
Okay, I'm just struggling a little because I'm going to be taking off at the end of May, but I guess that should leave me enough time.
Well, you know, you want to move it up a week, that's fine. The problem is, you know how people are. They're going to be building robots right up to the deadline. So
no matter what the deadline is, that's going to be the case.
Yeah. So, but you want to give them some time. It's already middle of January, so you know, it does look like. So
February, March, April.
So May 4th is what you're proposing?
Well, I was thinking the 4th. I can check with my wife and she'll see if she'll buy into the 11th.
You know, 4th or 11th, those are two good options. If it's easier for you to do it on the 4th, you're volunteering your time, so you have some say in when it is. You know? So 4th, if 4th would work better for you, then let's do it on the 4th. If you don't care, then I would say let's go with tradition and just make it the 11th.
Okay. Any other input, comment on that?
I would prefer the 11th because it gives me another week to actually try to make my robot work. I'm trying to make it work now. I mean, you know, it's stuff right here, right now, and things are doing. But you know, any moment I can get a hold of, I'll take it.
Well, last year.
But I'll go with what he just said. If it's more convenient for you, Paul, since you're doing the volunteering and you're doing the work on this, I say the volunteer person wins. You know?
Well, last year my robot fell apart in the last week before the thing. So
yeah, that was sad. We had a practice session a week in advance, and Mike's robot did really phenomenal. And then on the day of the contest, he must have had a loose connection or something. Did you ever figure it out, Mike? You know. Did you ever figure?
No, it's in pieces right now, so
yeah, okay.
It's being salvaged.
Yeah. But anyway.
What about so a practice session beforehand sounds really good. Is a week between practice and the real competition enough, or do we want 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm 180 miles away. I'm probably not gonna go either way.
Yeah.
I can do maybe the day of, but not before.
Well, a practice session is nice, especially for people who haven't competed before, because it gives them a chance to look at the arenas and the floors and the lighting and all of the weirdness that, you know, the dirt in the corners, you know,
right,
and everything.
I was just thinking if it was me, and I'm not going to have an indoor robot. But if it was me, I would rather have a couple of weeks to like adjust than 1. I mean, 1 week to adjust is not much.
Yeah.
I think you put something in the calendar, and when we've done that in the past, we've generally had people show up. And hey, if it's 2 weeks, Paul, maybe you can encourage a little advanced behavior.
A little what? What behavior?
We're working in advance versus waiting to the last minute.
I will say this. So what we have done in the last couple is both at the actual competition and at the practice session, we usually get a pizza or something. So, you know, it's a good time. It's a lot of fun because, you know, we don't get to be with people very much. So those practice, the competitions and practice sessions are good. Let's see. I do have a question though. Why does everybody just not interested in line following anymore? I mean, even the simple line following. I'm just curious. Is that just not, because that used to be the gateway drug? The people that were just beginning, they'd build because you don't need any odometry for line following. All you need
I think that's it. It's a beginner activity. I did it with a science project with my kids.
Yeah.
So if you're an experienced group, you probably don't have a lot of interest in that.
Yeah.
If you're just getting into it, it's fascinating.
Okay. We do have
the challenge course, though.
We do have the challenge course, which
so that crosses over or something like that.
Way more.
Okay.
And
so you bring up a picture.
Nobody has successfully completed the challenge course. It's still.
What about sumo? Do you guys do sumo? Do you do sumo robots? I've done that here.
Oh, no.
No.
Well,
really?
For kids, we would.
Yeah, the Raytheon we've had actually, that was in a robotics activity. People seem to enjoy that. It's back when the combat robots are pretty popular.
Mm-hmm.
And you could buy a kit for like $100 and put together with a PIC microcontroller. They're quite interesting.
Well, a lot of people
used to do that. I mean,
demo is really good if you have a crowd because it's fun to watch. It's really fun to watch, and but it's also very complicated.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go, Brendan.
beans and different width bars and.
Show us how beginner that is, would you?
Yeah, that's not beginner.
We've had a number of us that make around with like a couple false starts and longer than the allotted time. But this is a 7x13 course, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Or 6x13, and it's and then these are popsicle sticks, and then there's gaps and contrast changes, and no matter how you do it, there's glare. These days, what we do is we have a rollout vinyl banner, basically, where it's printed on it. And that thing just, no matter what you do, it glares. And from personal experience, I can tell you with the difference in contrast being so subtle between like this white blob and the white line and the dark blob and the dark line, that puts you, no matter how you have the camera balanced, like if your range is 0 to 255, you're within just a few bit levels of either end, and you have to be normalized across the whole range for it to work well.
Yeah, and a lot of the rules that you run in line following don't work. In normal line following, if you lose the line, you turn inward. Okay? So like if you have a 90-degree turn and you last saw when you flip the end of the line where you see which side had contact, you turn into it. Well, there's enough weirdness in this one that doesn't necessarily work for you.
Does this require a camera to do any good, and not just use
the people who have been the most successful have been using cameras. Okay, so it is a challenge, and like I say, it hasn't been won yet.
Not in the physical world.
Yeah, now that's right. Now in the virtual world, during the middle of COVID, we had a simulation contest, and we had simple line following, advanced line following. These are layers of complexity we have, and then they had challenge, and two or three people. Actually, I want to say 3 people actually completed the challenge course. Now, in the simulation, you had I think a couple of the things that you really had was that you had the ability to design your own sensor array, and some of the sensor arrays that were used probably would not be, unless you were using a camera and just mapping out areas of your field, you would have a hard time recreating those sensors.
Okay, I'd like to bring us back on track here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because we're wandering. And I see Kareem just joined. So Kareem, we're discussing Spring Roborama. I don't know if you or any of your folks are potentially interested in that, but what we got on the table at the moment is May 4th or 11th. Outback, Foursquare, 6CAN, and potentially 5-spot. Do you have any input that you want to contribute to that?
I'll have to check my competition calendar. 4th or 10th, you said?
11th. 4th or the 11th of May.
Right. Okay. I'll check on that. Hold on.
Okay. And then location. Doug said that we've been using the Dallas Makerspace. Oh, and out of the 6 people here who said that they would most likely compete, I think 2 are remote and 4 are local. Now, I envision we'd get a couple more, couple plus, or give or take, from the rest of the club. So, probably looking at 6 local, couple remote. But for the local folks, Doug said we've been using the DPRG, but I want to note that is kind of in some ways at odds with the club's charter of promoting robotics to the public, and really, I think not in our own interests, in terms of making it visible and interesting to a wider range of people. So I think it'd be interesting to try and find some different venue that's more public. Any thoughts, comments on that?
Makerspace is pretty public.
What about a mall? Malls are usually not as trafficked as much as they used to be, but they have open areas. I know here they have big old train exhibits in malls.
It was done at Row on occasion.
Well, Perot basically threw us out. They didn't want us there. So,
but before you shoot that down, Doug, I'm willing to go in and ask them again. And do you have a name for who you were dealing with?
No, that was 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, but, people change and circumstances change. And
talk to Ron.
Yeah, Ron Grant.
Ron Grant, because he does work for him sometimes.
Oh, really?
Ron Grant, yeah.
He builds displays for Perot.
Oh, okay. I'll reach out to him.
Didn't he make a theremin or something for the thing?
So what is this place?
He's made several things for him.
Is this Ross Perot property of some sort?
No, Ross Perot is a museum in downtown Dallas.
Named after Perot, I guess.
Yeah. Named after Perot. I'll be quite honest. I'd rather have it at the Dallas Makerspace because I enjoy that much better. Going down to Perot, I don't really like it. It's horrible location. Yeah. I mean, from a point of view of where they put us. I'm going to let you run with it, Paul. So you decide. But I would prefer Dallas Makerspace.
Okay, I hear you, Doug, and I've noted that. Any other input on a location?
Well, I would agree with it. We do get passersby at the Dallas Makerspace, and it has a lot from the convenience sake point of view. I do think it's interesting to think about a more public space, and I wonder if I wonder if, like the Dallas Science Museum, it's not as much as Fort Worth, but I don't know.
Oh well, so there's an interesting information there, because I actually looked into that, and it appears that what happened was the Science Place moved to. I might have the order of things wrong, but Science Place moved into the Perot Museum, and then around about that time, the Dallas Natural History Museum merged with the Science Museum and also moved into the Perot Museum. And so apparently those two spaces in Fair Park, the Museum of Natural History and Science Museum, are closed to the public, but they've still got stuff in them. And apparently there are all the dioramas, because the dioramas and all the stuff in them belong to the city of Dallas, so it couldn't really give them to the Perot Museum. And so apparently the Museum of Natural History and all these dioramas sitting in darkness with no one visiting them. Yeah, so I just want to make sure. I thought I heard someone say Dallas Makerspace is fairly public, or did I hear not fairly public? Because
yeah, I said that. I mean, it's not like they're closed to the public. I mean, pretty much, if we said there was a contest there, and people.
Well, on Saturdays, anytime there's a group of people doing something interesting, as people wander through the space, they swarm through. And when we've done it at the Makerspace, we've made banners and put them up on the doors and the walls, and that plus free pizza. And I mean, it's a draw. And we have had people that I think have discovered the Robot Club through that and attended at least a few meetings. I mean, you figure they're already in the area. They're local enough that they visited the Makerspace. Many of them have memberships, and they're just looking for other skills to add to their hobbies.
Okay, interesting.
I was gonna cough up the lab, which is the Makerspace over in Richardson, but I don't know how much, because I'm going to be with Carl. We get a lot of foot traffic, and I think we get a lot of foot traffic at the Perot, but I don't know where they'd put us, and just doesn't seem like they're going to have all these rules. Not that Dallas Makerspace doesn't have these rules, but they're going to have all these rules, and although we do follow the rules, we don't always follow the rules. That's just kind of how we are, right? And I think it seem a little too stuffy at the Perot Museum. I think it seems just a little too stuffy. Just my thoughts. I don't know enough. I know some people at the lab over in Richardson, but I don't know enough people, and I don't know how much traffic gets into that place these days.
Yeah, I haven't been there in years.
They've recently, last few years moved. They got this big space over there in the telecom corridor of Arapahoe where B&R used to be, and a few other things. The MCI. I'm a little aware of them, but I haven't really been there in a while.
Okay, that sounds a bit sketchy, at least from what anyone here knows about it. But I can throw that out in an email to the list.
Yeah, I can even probably offer up improving. We got some concrete floors up there and that kind of stuff, and we got plugs and we got internet, we got all the stuff. But I can guarantee you what you're not going to get there is you're not going to get a whole bunch of drive-by traffic.
Yeah.
On a Saturday. You're just not going to do it.
Yeah, that's where the Makerspace or the Fort Worth Science Museum or places like that, I think, would definitely get drive-by. Or even, what's the other one where the Frontiers of Flight Museum is down at Love Field?
I don't know anything about that place other than it exists.
Well, they've had Moon Day. We as a club have set up booths there at Moon Day, and they get a lot of public traffic cycling through. So that's, if we want outreach, it could be another option.
That's an interesting one because they, like you say, they've had sort of like, it's kind of gotten been wild and woolly at times when I've been there. You know, crowded and a lot of traffic, and it is a place that sort of techie people go.
Yeah, I should tell. Well, that's the point I was going to make about the makerspace too. The people at the makerspace are more likely going to be. Well, there's two types. There's the artist type and there's the techie type. You know, so or the builder type, I should say. The makers and the artist. And so there is and the people that walk by, there's a large portion of them that, you know, if we were to hold a beginner's robotics class, for example, it would fill up.
What are these two times you're talking about, Doug? What are these two times you talked about? There's an artist's time and a techie.
No, I was just saying there's types of people that are out there.
Okay.
They're either artists or they're makers. And if they're makers, robotics is going to, in some level, going to appeal to them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
think of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, where they show the pie chart with the thinkers and doers as a thin slice and everybody else is middle management. So that's...
Okay. With that, let me ask you guys about prizes, your opinion. So, I think we've traditionally had so RoboColumbus was the first contest I've competed in, and we had mugs, and I was like super thrilled to get my mug. I was like really pumped about that. But then also, and in the DPRG we used to like have little robot like plastic robot statues. Then another alternative is like a $35 gift certificate to a robot place or a Mauser or someone. What do people think about the relative value of those things? Because they're very different kinds of things, right? One is a recognition of having done well with no monetary value, and the other is, okay, you can trade it in if you want a motor driver or a compass, but maybe you don't need one. And so, you know, feedback on types of prizes.
I think nowadays it's more like a down payment on a motor driver.
I think recognition is really important. It's something to put on your, like a t-shirt.
T-shirts. T-shirts are good.
Yeah. Although I have to admit, I do like getting prizes. I think it kind of depends on, you know, how much money's in the budget and that kind of stuff. Paul, I wanted to ask you about, you know, you said you would prefer to do it in as public a place as possible. Would that be to get more members or more people?
Yeah, because currently our list of members shows that we have 24 members. I understand that number may be a bit low because some haven't been processed. But still,
I probably owe you some money, so I'll get some. I'll pay you some money here for too long. So I'll tell you that right now. It's been a while. So thanks for calling me out, Paul, even though you didn't.
Called yourself
out. More than anything, I don't know that it's the money that matters so much as the head count, as the number of people and the type of people who are in the club and active. I think we need to, 24 members is not a lot. And so I'm asking myself, where's the next generation of this club coming from? And so I think we want to think about our events from that perspective of who they could draw that potentially fill in, because basically, most of us look around at us. We're a bunch of old farts sitting on our asses talking about the robots that we're building. Where's the next generation?
That's
Not regulars.
I think, Paul, when I did my little stint as president, that was the thing that I was really trying to do, and we did several moon days and several things at the Fort Worth Science Museum, and it was kind of dismal. It's really, you don't get a lot of new members from those shows, if any. I was kind of at a loss. It's like, well, what else do you do? And probably Jack Jones was one of the youngest guys that, was participating, and he kind of comes in and out on the Robot Builders Night Out meetings, but he was kind of the people that we were trying to get in from his age group or his generation or whatever, but it seems like no matter what we did, we couldn't really get in a lot of new members. So,
well, thank you for that depressing news, Ray. I appreciate it.
So just trying to ease you into it there, Paul. I don't want you to be disappointed,
And I appreciate that. I appreciate the word of experience, the voice of experience.
So what about this high school group that you're engaged with? How would you? That's a future, right? Where would you find those at? I mean, where would they go?
Well, that's what I figure is that this is my wife's cousin in this case, and he's a pretty brilliant little kid. And his mom's just seventh grade. She's already put him through the high school after school things, and he's run through those. Now he's doing the pre-college stuff, and so she's trying to figure out how to keep him busy. So I see that I can add more value to the world by giving him some tasks and coaching and maybe teaming up with him than I can just sitting on my own thumbs doing something with Oak Delight because it's cool, right? Because here's a chance where I can sit and work with somebody and help nurture them and move them along. And I think that's it'll add value to me just from the family perspective. And in this case, I think it'll drag his eighth grade. He's in seventh grade. It'll drag it'll drag his eighth grade teammate along. So with the two of them, and those guys, I mean, they appreciate the gray hair crowd and the experience that we bring to the table. So,
well, that's a different twist. Do you make a contest for the club members, or do you make a contest for new members,
or for both?
Or both, yeah.
Because my perspective when I joined somewhere around 2015, 2017. By that point, there were still a lot of active people with 6CAN and tabletop and some other contests. But it wasn't long and I was with enough distractions in life otherwise that I couldn't move very quickly on catching up to speed. So by the time it seems like everybody else got tired of these other contests they've already run, what do I have? I'm now 3 years into a challenge line following robot that I thought I could do in 6 months, and and so now by the time I've got more time and capabilities, I've still got the distraction problem, and
yeah.
So I think the concern I have with and this is not in any way to suggest excluding school age folks, but I think we need to recognize that there's a lot of infrastructure for school age kids in the form of first, like Kareem's team group, and there's a lot more besides Kareem that have a whole bunch of parents, and you see that when you go to any of these high school or grade school kind of contests, and there's no way this club is equipped to deal with that. What is unique about us is we're oriented around adults, but I just would offer that there is a lot of infrastructure in this country focused on school age.
Yeah, and it's age appropriate, and there's a whole the environment is well suited to it. And yeah, there's exceptions, like we have 7 Protons who's stuck with us from high school through college.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. I'm just saying that as a broad approach, it's maybe not the center of.
It's not the core. Yeah,
right. And
so in that regard, I'd challenge to ask is because I think this branch of thread discussion started with and asking about where's the next generation to come into this, right? So clearly, from your argument, Paul, we can go too far early to the generations. So do we aim for people in the middle of the career? Do we aim for people just? Do we even?
That's probably too far off topic. So I'd like to wind up my segment on getting input on the Spring Roborama, and thank everyone for your contributions. I think this, I think this larger question that I maybe threw out, or maybe I want to pull it back a little bit, because I think it's still a valid question. I think it's one that the club needs to address, but I don't necessarily think I want to devolve my Spring Roborama question into that topic, because it's such a big topic and it's such a club-wide topic.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait 40 years for Kareem's kids to, get gray hair and big bellies and interest in robotics again.
We'll be back.
Okay.
Cooper's here, so,
let me get, before Paul leaves, can everybody pin my picture? Okay, am I pinned? All right. This is what the type of reward that Paul was talking about.
Yeah.
These are different. They're different versions of different things that were passed out for first, second, and third for each of the contests. And this is the oldest. This one right here. And the Robbies.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, those are the oldest ones. The other ones are newer and were made by different people. So anyway, one of the questions I think Paul was having is, should we have something like this as part of the prize? And these are cut out of plexiglass, and they're done on a laser cutter, and they're not too hard to do. So we do them. So I personally would like to see us at least make this part of the prize. Otherwise, if you take first and 6 cans, you get something like this. We'll have to figure out a design that's easy to do, because I would kind of like to go back to the classic. This one is Robbie. I don't have the design files, but I think Ron Grant has them. So
you can
there was a neat version of that was made in a kind of a fluorescent plastic, where
this is fluorescent.
Oh, that is fluorescent. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, cool.
Orange and
Yeah,
yellow.
somehow Ray, he got hold of two colors, and there was a green color. The green color here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
And then there was a red color. And they didn't necessarily mean first, second, third. It meant that's what the plexiglass that Ron had when he cut them out. So anyway.
Thanks for showing that, Doug.
Okay.
But they weren't participation trophies, right? You had to actually.
No, they were only first, second, and third.
Yeah. I don't believe in participation trophies generally. I don't think that's a good thing.
Me neither.
Okay, that's all I wanted to show before we left the Robo.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll put something out on the list. Just talking about the list. Does anyone else? Do you guys know? Are you having problems with the list, or do you know of other people that are having problems with the list? Because I don't get stuff. I don't get anything from the list. I get the weekly Robbie Robots email saying there's an event scheduled, but nothing that someone replies to a thread or
Okay. I'll tell you what the biggest thing. You're allowed, I think, 5 suspicious things, and then you get taken off the list. And what are suspicious things? When probably the biggest suspicious thing is if you have any other lists or groups. I would say if you're sending a message to the mailing list, the only addressee should be the mailing list. That'll save you a lot of problems. So even if you're, I'm just saying that's one of the things. The other thing, if you really, really want to be super safe, you should be using text only and not HTML. Okay. But I'm not sure. I've used HTML and sent it out on the list with pictures and files attached, and some of those will, if it gets above a certain size, it'll have to be approved. Otherwise, you can't just. It's not really meant to be a thing that you would send a zip file, okay? But you could attach a small image, for example, without it too much problem. So the more weird. We're using, I think it's Mailman. It's a really ancient program. Yeah. So anything that is not text-based could possibly get you in trouble, but usually it doesn't. But let's say like if you click a link and put a link in there, and that link goes to everybody in the world, to different, it's got advertisements or something in it, that'll probably get you in trouble. But if you have your own personal picture that you put up there, it probably isn't an issue.
So what I wanted to ask the group is the listserv working for you guys, or is anyone that's not working for?
It's hard to say because we don't know what to expect. I get the notices of the meetings, and that's the only thing I've ever gotten.
Yeah,
I don't get anything.
What else am I supposed to get?
I get some stuff every now and then from people throwing some things out there about, hey, did you see this or did you do that?
Yeah. That's usually what it is. And
we haven't had much of that lately either, right? I mean, there has
that's a blessing and a curse. Otherwise, the blessing is that you're not getting spammed on the list. You can be a member of the DPRG mailing list and you won't get spammed. All right. In fact, you probably, but, I can send a test message to anybody out and ask for people to let me know if they got it. And I can see, but, I can kind of look at, another thing is I can look at the mailing list addressees. And if you've,
okay, so let me interrupt here. This is January's output, and I heard two people say, David Ackley and Tom said, I didn't get anything. And I think you're saying you didn't see these messages, right?
I believe that's true. I cannot read what you've put up. It's too small.
Okay, let me show.
I don't.
That's better.
I haven't seen anything that's from a DPRG.
Okay, anyone else besides Tom and me and David that isn't getting this?
Yeah, I'm not
I think I get it.
more. I've changed email addresses a couple of times since.
Who's that speaking?
This Brad.
Okay, well, okay. What I would suggest is that you go out to the mailing list and subscribe. It's not automatic. Let me put it this way. There's people who are getting meeting notices. That's not the mailing list. The mailing list is separate, and you have to go out to the website. There's a tab. I'm not sure what tab it is.
I'll paste it. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, I get these messages.
Who does? Who's that saying you do get them?
Oh, I do. Yeah, because I went to this about a month or two ago. I subscribed and started getting the list.
Okay. Okay, so Brandon does get them. So I've subscribed. I even changed my email address and still no luck. So can I ask Tom and David and Brad to go and check whether you're go and try and subscribe like Doug asked, and I'll bring this up again next week, and let's see, and we'll send some test messages like in the next few days. So if you could subscribe sooner rather than later, and let's see if there's a problem, because I'm seeing a problem, and I it's in my mind it's not good. So if you guys could do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I subscribed and I've got the confirmation email just now.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Cool.
Yes, I'm subscribing now. I didn't know you had to actually subscribe. I ran a mailing list for my model airplane club, and I looked after all of the subscriptions for new members. And because nobody would bother to do it properly if I didn't do it for them.
Cool. Well, Paul,
wait for my email.
So I guess
what program do you use, Tom?
We used a third-party server called freelists.org.
Okay.
Very, very nice. I got to know the admin guy who lives in Cleveland quite well, because we had the odd glitch he had to help us with. But generally pretty good. A little bit of training for people who don't know anything about how email system works, in order to understand things like it's got a limit of 5 megabytes for attachments, stuff like that.
I just looked at the membership list and it looks like I've fallen off.
Who's that speaking?
Dave Ackley.
And is that correct or incorrect?
I don't know. Probably it may well be correct because I don't remember having paid dues recently, but
Okay, so just so we're clear, the membership list is unrelated to the listserv. So we're talking about the listserv here, and so yeah, I mean, love to see that membership number go up, but just so you know, it's unrelated to the listserv.
okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Cool. Well, thank you, Paul, for taking the lead on the contest and such. Good discussions. Very helpful.
Yeah.
That takes us to Ray and then open mic.
Okay, I'm actually going to attempt a demo here. Hopefully, the demo effect will not come into play. I've got to go upstairs to do this, and I'm going to try to do it on my phone. So I don't know if all of that is going to work.
Are we going for 3 gold stars tonight?
Possibly, possibly.
Well, I can fill some dead air if you're while you're getting ready to talk about just give an update on the workshop, on the ROS 2 workshop.
Cool.
If Ray looks like he's focusing hard. Okay, let me just pull up. Okay, site. There we go. Let's see. So I'm going to paste into the chat the home page for the ROS 2 workshops. And per our discussion last week at this meeting, we have organized a group of guinea pigs to experiment on, and so thank you for that, everyone. Last week we discussed that observers are welcome, but requested to abide by the distinction between observers and participants. And so this is I want to share with you the meeting schedule. We're meeting Wednesdays at 7 Central. The Google video call link is this. So anyone who wants to come and be an observer, you're welcome to join us at 7 p.m. Central tomorrow. Will be the first session, let's see. I'm not going to send this out to the list because this is the first time trying something like this, and I don't want to sabotage it by having a bunch of folks who haven't been part of this thing's creation show up. So this is just sharing it with you guys, and let me just make it bigger. Yeah, so here's the meeting. So if you go to the link that I pasted into the chat, you'll get to this ROS 2 and DACA DPRG workshops, and right near the top is the Series 1 meeting schedule with the link on how you can join if you want to be an observer. I want to thank Doug for being the guinea pig. He can't be there tomorrow, so I did a makeup session with him, and it was quite instructive. I did see your comment. Let's see. Let me unshare here. So anyway, he suggested. So Mike, I did see your comment that you've gotten things going, and you're absolutely right that it takes a long while to get the downloads done and program the Pi and all that. And Doug had done that before we met, and it still took us 2.5 hours. Some of it was the expected, unexpected problems, like antivirus program preventing access to a file that you needed to edit, and this kind of nonsense. But I think the further the participants can get down trying stuff, hopefully the smoother it will go, and maybe we'll stay somewhat close to the hoped for timeline. We'll see. It's an experiment, so I appreciate your indulgence. That was it.
A quick
So just one question for clarity. You always talk about a laptop. You're not explicitly saying we need a laptop.
No.
Base
Sorry.
station, main computer, or something like that.
It's what you would use. It's really your I/O device. It's what you type at and watch your screen on.
That's how I've interpreted it. Just want to make sure there wasn't something special that required a laptop, like a field trip or something like that.
No. I use the term laptop because if this concept of a telemetry RPi takes off, then you would probably end up using a laptop out at somewhere where you're running a robot. But nothing specific to needing an actual laptop. Oh, I see a picture from Ray.
Okay, we ready? It's probably, can you pin me? That would probably be the easiest way. Okay, I got my robot platform here on the ground, or on the floor. And this is a course that I've built. It's, same as the Can soccer course. It's 7 feet by 10 feet. I'm going to try to add a compass again, but I use this green plaque basically to orient the platform, or orientate the robot to figure out which goal it should go to. Because otherwise, you guys say, "There's the wrong way, Ray. He's going to the wrong goal again." So that's to circumvent that happening. So anyway, I'm turn it on, and then I'll show. But hopefully, it's going to work. We'll have to see here. Okay. And I only have 3 cans, so it's okay. So it's grabbing the first can. It's going to circle around, looking for that green plaque. Okay, and once it finds it, it's actually using a different method to find the goal. And I'll show you what that is here. Okay, so it dropped off the can.
I love the goal sensor.
Good. Back over here. Yeah, I didn't readjust the lighting. I'm going to try to pick it up. I don't think I can turn on any other lights here. Anyway, I'm just going to set it back down again. It's looking for another can. Okay. Anyway, it should drag that one. It should just push them all out of the way. Okay. So it's finding the goal, dropping that one off. It's probably going to have a hard time finding them again because the lighting is off. Anyway, I just wanted to show. Found that one again. It's going to wait now.
It's got a thing for that can, Ray.
Anyway. Boundaries. Anyway.
That's awesome. Awesome.
A different approach. Hold on a second. I'll show you what I was talking about.
And that sucker was moving quite fast.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, it's a time competition. Anyway, these two sensors are the two Polulu sensors. Those output like a continuous, almost like an RC pulse train. And the width of the pulse is proportional to the distance. So you just, do like a pulse in statement and I'm going to go back downstairs and do the rest of this here. Just use a pulse in statement to figure out what the width is and what the distance is. And so they sit on the platform at like a 45-degree angle to the front. Anyway. And that was to replace basically a servo and a Benawaki LiDAR, which was a lot slower. This used to take 180 readings as it swung across 180 degrees. And I'm going to try to get back on my laptop here. But now there's no servo required, so it's a lot faster. The rev rate for those is about I think 30 milliseconds or 33 hertz. So you can go through things pretty quickly. Anyway, so you've probably seen these before. These are the Polulu. I don't know if I can get close enough. The Polulu sensors that I'm using.
The ST micro time of flight, is that what that is in the middle?
Yeah, it's a time of flight sensor. Let me get back on the DPRG. Okay, come on. Oh man, it's taking a while. There we go. Anyway, so that was one of the ideas that I wanted to try. So it is just, there we go. Okay, get out of this. Okay, hopefully there's no echo. Ooh, I can hear echo.
I think you got an echo.
Okay, did that get rid of it? Nope.
You're muted on your main feed, and then the other feed is unmuted, so I think that's your problem.
Okay.
Kind of trippy.
Darn it, I can't get rid of it here.
I just muted your other feed, so that got rid of the squeak.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so it's an attempt to get rid of things that take too long or increase the total trip time. So basically I'm just doing wall following. I'm following that long wall, trying to keep a certain distance away from it. And because the sensors are pointed off at 45 degrees when it comes up to the wall that the goal is, that distance gets shorter much quicker. So it actually turns away from it and heads towards the opening where the goal is. So, and before, what I used to do is use the Benawaki LiDAR and a servo and basically scan 180 points and try to find where the center of the goal was, and then more or less did like a point and shoot. It rotated to where it thought, whatever angle it needed to find the center of the goal, and just went straight towards the goal. And that didn't always work that well. And it actually worked better with the LiDAR light than the Benawaki. I think the LiDAR light had, it's laser based. I think the Benawaki's LED based. It had a much narrower beam, and it would work for, much longer distances. I want to say the LiDAR light was good for like 40 meters or something. More than enough for an indoor contest. But anyway, so that's, I'm on the Kick Scott's Ass campaign. So that's one of the things I'm hoping is getting there. So.
I love the slack down you guys do.
What's that?
So I have that observation. It looked to me, behavior-wise, that your robot was so interested in that first can because you did not go back through the gate after you dropped it. So the first can it found when it started looking was the same one again.
What's the what?
It kept finding the can that it dropped off because it did not go back through the gate to look for the other ones before it started looking.
That's... Well, it was actually... Actually, what it's supposed to do, I'm not certain, it would all happen pretty fast there, but usually it drops the can off, backs up, back into the arena, turns around and starts looking for the next can. But
it didn't get into the arena after it backed up.
Yeah. So, and it's supposed to, trip basically the goal switch that's on the top of the thing, and that's what makes it do that. So
I was just making a guess.
Yeah, and the other thing with any of the cameras like that one actually has a pixie cam on it. You really have to adjust. Like I adjusted it earlier today when bright sunlight was coming in the room. So you pretty much have to do that, and that's one of the nice things about the makerspace. That room has no windows that we do the contest in. So you don't have to worry about outside light. Is it going to be bright? Is it going to be, cloudy and overcast? But pretty much every time you run the contest, you have to, select the colors that you want, your camera to find. Because if you don't, you get into situations like that where it won't find it.
Well,
I wasn't there with my bright orange shirt, man. You don't know if that was test conditions.
Yep. Yeah.
The way I saw it, Ray, was that when you put it through the goal, that for some reason your whip antenna thing didn't trip.
Yeah.
So you ran outside. Once you got outside, it tried once to go back in, but now it hits that trip switch again.
Yeah.
So that sounds like that's the failure mode of that, is that if you ever get outside of the arena, you can't get back in.
Yeah. It'll actually get back in, but it goes out around the outside and comes back in the other goal. So, because it's doing line following or wall following.
But that's almost a guaranteed Scott win then.
It'll increase the time. You don't want to waste any, any movement in, trying to get back into the,
But you're still not using any odometry, right? You're just targeting and then finding your target, find the can, target, find the goal. and then
Right.
turn around, target can, pickup can, turn target gold, and that's why you need the green thing, because you have no,
I don't have a compass right now.
you don't have any sense of direction. There's no, you're not reading encoder. Well, you might be reading encoders for speed, but you're not
Right.
using it for location.
Yeah, speed and rotation, whatever,
Yeah.
you know, I can rotate a set number of degrees if I want. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, not, I don't, you know, basically do like an X, Y, and theta, you know, tally throughout the course. It's,
Curious.
I guess my question would be why not, Ray? That would allow you to say, well, this doesn't make sense. I'm outside the course, you know, or something like that. Anyway, I'm just
yeah, I could. You know, I've got it. It's got odometry on it, and, but it's not subsumption based. It's all just you know, a series of functions that do what.
I saw a behavior that I thought was interesting. It looked like once you had a can in, it kind of went around the other cans. So was that just serendipity, or did that actually happen?
Yeah, no, it did look like that, and I was kind of surprised to see that it shouldn't see the other cans. It's up above it, not unless I poked one down or something.
Do you have any kind of post-run analysis techniques that you use?
Don't know what you mean. Post run, either it works or it doesn't.
Yeah, the answer is no.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
No, but I mean, you know, I'm just saying that, yeah, that's what we're hoping to get with this Ross 2 thing. But
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if Ross can react quick enough to have, you know, competitive times. It seems like, you know, you're talking about very low.
Just to be clear, you're talking what we're doing in the workshops is a telemetry recorder that allows analysis, post-run analysis from recorded data of whatever you might choose to record. So that's not, you know, we're specifically not doing a Ross driving a robot.
Okay. Yep.
You got like what is they call it, a bag of some sort that you're recording on it, so you can play it back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the focus of the group of the workshop series is to get participants to a point where they can hopefully record their own debug data coming off of their robot, and then use graphing and other tools to see what it actually did, why it did what it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, another model, if you are using that subsumption code, you specifically the LMX multitasker, there's a routine he uses, I think he calls it stats, which is not a bad model. Well, he basically takes all the process variables and throws them out to serial port. It could be anything, but that's not, if you want to do it locally on your processor that's doing reactive stuff, that might be a good model on how to do that.
Brad, he's not actually recording variables. He's recording time slices, I believe.
Yeah, but he's also going into the tasks, I think, and including the recorded time when it's expected to wake up. Yeah. And that model you can use to basically do anything, right? So you could go into each of your sensor variables and throw that out the same one. Or, so what he's doing is I think it's every 20 hertz on that one. Mm-hmm. No, it's not. It's the longer loop. But, every 100 hertz or so, if you want to go read sensors and throw that off to the serial port or some file, that would be a good model on how to do it. Mm. That's what I'm saying. So, he's doing it with process states, but you can do the same thing with sensor states.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more cumbersome, but I think I could get an ESP32 and record a lot of stuff with an SD card on it. So
Yeah, I mean, there's
probably don't have very nice tools to look at it, but maybe.
I mean, it could be raw serial out to a Raspberry Pi, or it could be a JSON writer. It doesn't matter what it is. Just every 20 or 100 hertz, throw your sensor data and where you think you are, your odometry data.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. Says the guy whose robot doesn't move, so take that for what it's worth. Doesn't move on its own power anyway.
Ray, are you using a state machine type architecture on that one?
I guess it is. It's basically a series of functions that do something like, like the first one is, move to cam.
Right.
So it initializes the Pixie cam and
sounds like a state machine. So
more or less,
and you could just have a row of LEDs that would tell you what state you're in.
Yeah.
That might catch you. That might catch some problems really quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it. Otherwise it wouldn't get everything, but it probably would make sure you're released in the state that you think you are.
Yep.
And
yeah, that's what I did with the outdoor platform and the my chick magnet thing. That basically told me which function I was in and showed me which variables were important in that function. And
did you say chick magnet function? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what I was calling it.
Yeah, that's Ray's special wrist, Dick Tracy wristwatch.
Okay.
So basically, it's a module with an ESP32 in it and a fairly nice. I think that one's
and a wrist strap.
And a wrist strap, yeah. So it's like that's and I had a little battery that attached to it, so basically I could just stick this on my arm like this and watch what the robot was doing, and I'd have to follow it and look at this little teeny display in bright sunlight. So
that's awesome.
So it worked out pretty good. So
you could use that as a watch too, Ray. I mean,
I could, yeah, really. Who needs an Apple Watch? Yeah. So. Anyway, so that worked really good for the outdoor contest because I could just kind of follow along and look at things that whatever was important in that function.
Does that use a micro ROS by chance? I mean, or did you build your own telemetry protocol?
The ESP32s have a thing called ESP Now, and it's up in the, I think the 2.4 or 2.5 gigahertz Wi-Fi band, but it doesn't follow the Wi-Fi protocols. So basically, you stick whatever variables you want in in C in a structure, and you can put anything in it. Text strings, integers, floats, characters, you name it, any variable, just as long as it fits in, a 250 byte payload. And you determine how you display that on the other end. So it basically, the ESP on the robot sends it to the ESP on the, in the chick magnet, and, I can make it, nice and bright and big text and be able to see, whatever I want to see.
Hey, Ray, is the chick magnet, is it actually displaying a web page?
No, it's just straight text.
Okay.
And the I forget which one it is. It's yeah, I think it's one of the. I think it came from China, as far as I can tell. Of course, most everything comes from China. Not much of a distinction there. But it's one of the graphics programs where you can do like widgets and
Oh yeah.
you know, meters if you want to. But you know, all I really needed was just text and you know the name of whatever variable it was and the value of it. You know.
I think I bought one up based on your recommendation. That's kind of like this.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty handy. I haven't, you know, it kind of depends on, you know, like if you have a discrete antenna or one of the built-in antennas as to how far away you could get from it. But that was, you know, with that, I actually haven't tested it, but I probably should just to see how far it will go. But, you know, in the outdoor contest, you know, our robots don't move that fast that I, you know, wasn't right behind it most of the time anyway. So it was good enough.
Good enough.
Anyway, that's all I had.
Cool. Gold star number 3, Ray, bringing it in. That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Of course, I'll have to look at the recording. I think my video was probably
Just
a lot
great.
more of the wall,
No, it
the
was just
floor,
fine.
the ceiling, you know.
Don't worry. There's a moving robot live. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, that takes us to open mic section. Where did that leave us? Anybody else have some discussion points?
Just a couple of comments. Paul, thank you very much for the workshop pre-notes. It took several passes for me to understand that you actually want to hook up a real serial interface. I kept thinking, why do you want to do this? Go over the network. So I spent an hour building one.
So yeah, that's a good question. I didn't quite catch that either. So you're not using the built-in ROS network communication. You want us to use this?
No. The serial comms is sort of like an add-on not related to ROS2, but hopefully intended to be useful if you put your RPi on, take it out to some place that it hasn't been before, and you need for it to be on a network, so that you can get into it from your laptop and pull bags off of it. And well, how do you get the network set up? Well, with an RPi, do you take a monitor and a keyboard out to like Steve's place and you know, go up to the network manager, and you know, that's one way to do it. Another way is you log in over the serial port of the Pi, and you use fconfig and then give it the parameters of the IP you want it to have and so forth. So it's really unrelated to ROS2, and you know, I won't stop the workshop because that's not working. You know, it's useful. I hope that it might be useful when people take their robot somewhere else.
Is it this thing right here? I mean, I went out and bought one. USB on this side and pin. You can drop this on the 40 hand. Let me see if I can get. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then just, I don't know whether you've got a 3.3 volt USB to TPL interface, because your Raspberry Pi is all 3.3 volts.
Yeah, this is a 3.3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what you need.
I think it is. I was hoping it was.
Curiously enough, when I configured my USB interface for 3.3 volts and measured it, it's actually 3.6 volts. So I did some research, and I don't think that's a problem, but I guess we may learn the hard way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've never used this before, so this is all new to me. So I went and ordered one off of Amazon that I did look for 3.3, and that's what it says.
Yeah. There may be a configuration jumper you have to install.
Well, even if it's 3.6, it's usually like 3.3 plus 10%. So
That's what I was trying to figure out, and nobody's really too sure. Apparently, there isn't a lot of documentation on the particular chip in my Raspberry 3 that says what the worst case values are for I/O pins.
Yeah,
but I thought I'd try it and see what happens. Paul, I will make one comment, but you may not want to discuss it here very long. Since I'm using a Model 3, there are only 2 serial ports on a Model 3. I think you're used to a Model 4 with 6 serial ports. Judging by the notes you have for updating config.txt.
The notes for updating config.txt, I tried, I might have failed here, but I tried to make them say something along the lines of, if you've got an RPi4 and you want to enable more ports, this is what you need to do. It's unrelated, again, it's unrelated to this, and the serial port pins that I gave are for TTYS0 or whatever that port 0 is.
Yeah, now that I look some more into it, I may have to use a different port because there appears to be some double usage of the serial port for talking to the Bluetooth controller.
That's right, and I ran into that, and that's why I put that information in on my RPi. Doug didn't run into that, so I don't know why not, but I did, and so I ended up putting it on TTY and 4.
It could be because I probably have Bluetooth turned off or something.
Oh.
And that's what I'm going to do is turn off Bluetooth. I don't have a reason for it at this point.
Yeah, I don't either. So that
fixes that? Oh, cool. Good to know.
Anyway, we'll see what happens. The other item I wanted to mention, and I'm glad Doug is still here. If you can see these, I've been building claws.
So did it work?
Well, so Doug, I've been successful at getting STL files converted, and they print okay. I haven't assembled these yet, as you can see. They're still separated. I asked you some questions about how to configure this thing onto a base plate. You can skip answering those because I got smart and I read the rest of the notes in the club robot.
That's good because.
So I know how to do it now.
But I did find out what the problem is.
It'll work with a standard servo, and the spacing is on the base plate SVG diagram. Right. So that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, and I found out why you were having trouble with the other programs.
Okay.
The clause was I did it in Design Spark Mechanical.
Yes.
And what I did is I turned off one of the solids because it's not used, so it's turned off. But what I should have did is deleted it. The reason why it was turned off was probably I was thinking, well, maybe I'd use it someplace else or something. But what I should have done is deleted it and then created the STL. So when I get around to it, I'll fix that and send it up to the GitHub.
No worries.
Yeah,
just for the rest of you, this was a conversation that Doug and I have been having in the last few days by email, where the STL files I downloaded from the GitHub were unusable in any of the tools that I have access to. But I finally found a tool that I could use to convert the files that Doug had provided to STL files that work with the conventional tool set I'm using, so I could finally print them on my 3D printer. So it looks like he's found whatever the fix is that's needed.
Yeah, I found the fix. I haven't fixed it, but it shouldn't be a minor thing.
Yeah. So probably all of the 3D print STL files may have the same issue. I don't know.
No. It would just be that one because, like I said, what it is I had probably some file from Thingiverse as a starting point. And I used that as a kind of a guide. And since after I changed everything, I didn't need that anymore. So I just turned it off so it wouldn't show. But it's still embedded. Okay, so what I should have done is just deleted it. Then it wouldn't have been embedded when I made the STL, and that's what. Otherwise, what you're trying to do is you said, you remember you said, well, I saw it with. What gave it to me is when you said, well, I had one program that showed me some ghost image on top of it.
Yes.
That's when I realized, okay, now I know what that is.
And I couldn't ungroup them so I could remove the ghost.
Yeah.
Anyway, it all worked out. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's a nice design.
It's simple. It's simple and it is configurable.
Well,
you can change those. You can create. Yeah. Okay. You've already done it.
No, I'm going to try this one. This one's even simpler. This is
okay. Okay.
This picks up a can very nicely.
That's all you need.
When you're messing around with that serial port, don't forget to enable the messages to the console from the Raspberry Pi. I did that. So, what the hell? Why isn't it printing anything? And then eventually it gets to root login. And okay, there's some extra steps.
So if no one else has got anything, I've got a little demo that's like unrelated to the workshop. So something I've been working on is a TurtleBot simulator for use with my scripted robot driver, and so TurtleBot is something that comes with ROS, and you can drive it with a keyboard, which I'm going to do right now. Drive it with a keyboard. Okay, but the more interesting thing is you can run a scripted driver that tells it to drive straight for 2 meters. So, and off it goes. It speeds up and then it slows down after it's gone 2 meters. And just if I flip over to the let's see, this should be showing my terminal, and so I run ROS2 run scripted bot driver as a package, drive straight odom.py for 2, hit enter, and it is sleeping on odometry there for a bit, then it drives straight, it's driving at the moment, and then finished, and so it tells the initial XY and traveled 2.02 meters, and then it exited. So anyway, that's my demo. Nothing too fancy, but.
Paul, do you find that the simulations versus being in, like an outdoor environment, that your odometry gets off pretty quickly?
So there's kind of two parts to that question. In the simulation, I can assume perfect localization. And then on my outdoor robot, I don't use odometry at all. I only use RTK GPS.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, I've got almost perfect localization.
Mm-hmm.
So really, the value of simulation is in, because I'm a pretty stink programmer, and I code in lots of bugs and things don't work. So it lets me debug here at my desk rather than like out in the backyard where it's either too hot or too cold.
No.
So does your platform correct for, like, if you tell it to go to a certain waypoint, is it, within 2 centimeters of that waypoint, or does it make its best attempt and then tell you where it actually is?
It uses David Anderson's algorithms for navigating to a point. So, he uses odometry to produce localization, and then points, and then develops a heading or a bearing to the waypoint, and then turns based on that bearing until the bearing is straight ahead, and then approaches until the error circle. He's inside of the error circle.
Yeah,
so I use that whole mechanism for driving.
Oh, okay.
And the way the natural consequence of that mechanism is, as it gets close in to the waypoint, it will tend to turn right towards the waypoint because it's a little bit off, so it tends to turn at an angle, and I do see that happen. But then I've got my error circle for saying it's arrived big enough that it doesn't turn all around and try and chase itself around.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Now let's see, what's next? Open mic time. I'll just ask, so for next week, what is people's interest and or tolerance for an update on CES? Because I see some nods.
Yeah.
I got between photos and notes, I could probably jabber for 45 minutes if you wanted.
We're talking about robot-centric CES, right? Not just general CES, right?
Well, I saw a bunch of them out there. Like there's an app out there now that lets you pay for your bathroom visits, in the app. So if you need to go to the bathroom, it's not a pay to play. It's kind of a pay to pee scheme. Do they understand that most of the states have outlawed that, making you had to pay for a bathroom? I saw it. It came across my feed at CES as something really weird, and I'm like, I remember back in the '60s and the '70s, maybe when I was a very little kid, having to pay a quarter to go to the bathroom. But I'm like, you're doing. I guess somebody does it in the world, and there's a problem that they're looking to solve somewhere, right?
All over in Europe, but
Well, it's kind of weird, but last year my wife and I went to France, and pretty much the first time I went to France, everywhere you went, you had to pay to go to the bathroom. I don't know if it was COVID, but there were very few bathroom attendants, and they were open to the public, free. So I even
I'm sorry, I derailed Carl already. I'm sorry, Carl.
No, that's right. That particular thing didn't come across my feed, but to answer the robot-centric CES, I can't claim to promise that, but there are kind of like adjacent things and interesting things. So
I saw a little bit of the stuff, and AI was like it's one of these things back about, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago when IoT was on everything.
Right.
IoT capable. Well, that's what I'm seeing out of CES now. Everything's got something AI on it. I've got a mirror that's AI. What's it do? It tells you the temperature. How's that AI? I don't know, but they have it on there.
And that seems to be the executive summary is that in the same way that, IoT is no big deal because everything is connected. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Was it ever not connected?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I think is if there's one takeaway from this year's CES, it's that for AI. And I'll delve more into what the Intel keynote guy said, but President Intel. But he thinks the summary that he gave was that in the same way that the PC ushered in an era in the early '80s, and the internet ushered in a certain era whenever it came along, he thinks that this AI wave is going to power another 10 years like that. just because it'll be so pervasive. But he had a number of insights that I'll share next week that are pretty cool. And to the extent that our robots become, is it smarter or just regurgitating things in a more smart looking way? I mean, there's a lot of that was evident. And anyhow, there's some fun photos and things to share. So I'll do that for next week.
I think that's awesome.
All right. I think Dave's waving goodbye. If there's no one else to speak up, then I will also. So,
Yes.
gentlemen, stay warm wherever you are, and have a good weekend, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Okay. See ya.
Thanks. Good night.